Hey everybody, it's Kendrick from Providence Tarot. I'm in Central Park right now at a very odd location. It's near a lawn that is closed, and I wanted to go in there because there was a hawk that sort of like flew up into the trees, and it was very obvious to me that this was the area that I needed to be in. And when I was walking to find a spot, I found one in the middle of like an open area by a tree so that I can kind of feel very secluded, protected, or just kind of like cloaked, right? But as I got closer to the tree, there was a dead squirrel on the ground, and that let me know that that was not the spot. So I came over here, and here I am. I have to teach 5 more classes today. That's getting kind of exhausting, teaching so many classes. But I'm pushing through, and my will and my desire to create and make something of something is what keeps me going. Pluto is the higher octane of Mars, which is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Mars is talking about energy, passion, drive, intensity, intention, right? And it's also talking about like what you're planning, itinerary, right? And we're just talking about, focus, right? Thought, impulse as well, because the first house, which is, ruled by Mars, and is Aries traditionally, is very much that. It's an optimistic house because, it's the first sign, so it doesn't necessarily see very much behind it. It really just kind of incites, it stirs things up, right? It's also motivation. How are you motivated? That's your Mars placement, so look at where your Mars is. Mars is related to Aries, of course, Scorpio definitely, and also Capricorn because it is exalted in Capricorn. And let's see, when you think of Mars in Aries, that's actually the, what is that? I believe that is the Two of Wands, which is talking about dominion and, how you might want something that might affect someone else, or vice versa, how someone else might want or desire something that might affect you, or you might have something to do with whatever it is that they want. Mars in Capricorn is actually the Three of Pentacles, and that's talking about work. It's talking about how you generate and how you generate pleasure from work, right? Because it's a 3, so it's talking about how you identify with what it is, and also how you feel about what you are identifying with. That has to do with work. It's talking about execution, and it also is just talking about overall appreciation for the work and for the quality, and maybe even for how much quantity of quality is being produced, okay? Now, when we talk about Mars and Scorpio, that's that's the Five of Cups, which is talking about conflict within the emotional state, right? How you identify with your feelings, and it's the pressures that you put on yourself, when you discover how you feel about something that isn't so great, because, Scorpio is fixed and water is flowing, so their idea of water is very frozen, stuck, enclosed, contained, not really moving, not really flowing, but definitely being active, that it is ruled by Mars. Isn't that something? It's a fixed sign ruled by Mars. So there's got to be lots of conflict. There's got to be lots of torturous situations, right? Or things that just seem very painful, maybe even harmful to yourself and to other people, because that energy that's being contained, right, needs somewhere to go, and Pluto is also a co-ruler of Scorpio and Aries, absolutely. Because in order to, be conscious is to be born, you're born, then you're conscious of something. That's very Aries, and it's life too. When you're born, you're given life, and that's Pluto. So it does have a significance to Aries and also to Scorpio because it's talking about transformation as well. Pluto is sexual, right? Scorpio rules the genitalia. Sex can be used to pleasure oneself, or it could be used to treat. It could be used as a drug, right? There we go with Mars and Capricorn, right? Three of Pentacles. Um, and Mars and Scorpio, Five of Cups could be, a conflict within a sexual, committed relationship that might, be intimate. Those are some issues happening with sex. Also, just with maybe feeling jealous or resentful, maybe even let down, because Scorpio can be let down very easily because it has high expectations, being that it is, ruled by Pluto, and Mars definitely has expectations, right? Uranus is actually exalted in Scorpio, which is, Uranus's radical change, great change, and a transformation is that, because sometimes it's very difficult to get to the transformation, so you need that energy of Uranus, wherever that is in your chart, to push it through, My Uranus is very significant because it is in my second house, which is the house that naturally opposes the 8th house, which naturally Scorpio rules. Yeah, and Pluto is very dense and it's very controlling. That energy is kind of fixed and very stuck in a way. People who have Pluto, significant Pluto placements, whether you have Pluto in the 8th house or you have Pluto in the 1st house, like moi, you are very intense. I'm a Libra and Libra rising, but with that Pluto being there and having my Pluto being conjunct my Saturn, a huge chunk of me is very serious, is very dense. There might be sprinkles on the outside, but what's there on the inside? And that's what Scorpio talks about. It talks about a deeper meaning behind things. In order for us to transform, we definitely have to find and discover a deeper meaning behind something. All of the 8s in the tarot are related to the Strength card, right? Pluto is actually exalted in Leo, so in Leo squares Scorpio, so you will find that with squares that are of the same quality, right? I mean, all of the squares will be of the same quality, but, there are some similarities. If we take, Leo is kind of very much into creation, right? And being capable to do things. And Scorpio is very much about the same thing, right? Because Pluto is actually the higher octane of Mars. And, Mars has a very significant placement with all of the fire signs because he likes to be there. And Scorpio would probably be the most fiery of the water signs if we had to come up with one. Cancer can be seen that way too, but Scorpio for sure. And this retrograde is going to be in Scorpio. So we're talking about going back and having some redos, some restructuring, some reconnections perhaps. Some resounding epiphanies, during this retrograde, which is going to show us the deeper meanings behind some of the things that we've experienced, especially since that Venus, I was going to say Vegas, since that Venus transit, that Venus retrograde last fall around this time in Scorpio. So think about where you were last year around this time and where you've come, up until this point. This is a part 1, and I think I might do a part 2. It might be the same length, or it might be a little bit shorter, because I do have to talk about the new moon. A leaf just hit me on my right hand. So yeah, just take a look at where your Pluto is in your chart, which house it's in. If there are any aspects, like if it's square, trine, sextiled, or even conjunct something, because that would be very powerful. Also look at where your Mars is for sure, and all of those things that I just explained about Pluto, or suggestions I gave. And then also look at your Uranus and where that is, today and in your birth chart. And then you can kind of get a sense of what's going on for you. Okay? Thanks everybody, and I'll have a part 2 up soon.